can a computer like truly whip up something brand new, something that, really makes you think or feel something deep the way a person can? It feels a bit sci-fi maybe, but with AI moving so fast, it's well, it's definitely something we need to look at closely.
Totally.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're sort of untangling the really fascinating, maybe tricky differences between AI and human creativity.
Exactly. And you've pulled together some really interesting stuff here. What we want to do is kind of get to the heart of these differences.
Yeah.
Not just, how they're different now, but also start thinking about what happens if those lines get really blurry.
Absolutely. The sources we're looking at, they really map out the current situation, and it just feels like a really, really interesting chat waiting to happen. So let's just dive in.
Let's do it.
When the experts talk about this, what are some of the main ways AI's creative stuff seems different from what humans do?
Okay, so a few key things kind of jump out from the material. Maybe the biggest one, the foundation, is this idea of intentionality.
Intentionality, okay.
Yeah. Human creativity. It usually comes from a desire, right? To express something or evoke an emotion or maybe solve a problem with a specific goal. Think of a composer wanting to convey a feeling of hope.
Right. They mean to do that. It's not just random notes.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And the sources really emphasize that AI, well, it generates its output based on the just mountains of data it's learned from. It's great at spotting patterns and reproducing them or mixing them up, but it doesn't have that same genuine understanding or the why that really drives human creation.
So, okay, it's like an architect designing a house with a family's needs and style in mind versus an AI generating a house design from analyzing thousands of floor plans.
That's a great analogy, yeah. The AI can make something that looks like a functional, even beautiful house, but the actual motivation, completely different.
Got it.
And this lack of real intention, it connects straight to another key difference the material points out. Emotional depth. Our creativity as humans, it's so often powered by our own lives, isn't it? Our happiness or sadness, all the messy, real stuff. And those feelings kind of seep into what we make.
Yeah, definitely.
And that allows it to connect with other people emotionally. Like a poet writing about loss.
Yeah.
You feel that connection.
And AI, I mean, it doesn't exactly go through a tough breakup, does it?
No, not in the way we do.
Yeah.
And the sources suggest this really limits the emotional resonance of what AI creates. It can write lyrics about sadness by copying patterns it's learned, but it's missing that authentic core emotion that comes from actually living it.
Okay, so maybe we're safe from truly heartbreaking AI pop songs for a little while longer. What about totally original ideas? That seems superhuman, doesn't it? Dreaming up something completely out of left field.
That's a really important distinction the sources bring up, originality versus, say, innovation. Human originality often means thinking up entirely new ways of seeing things, breaking the rules, big leaps. Think about, the invention of jazz or something, a whole new form.
Right, something that really shakes things up.
Exactly. AI, though, usually works by rearranging the patterns it already knows from its training data. It can be incredibly clever at making new combinations.
Okay.
But that spark of a truly new concept, something that doesn't just build on what's there but jumps sideways, that seems to be where the difference lies right now.
Yeah.
It's maybe more like a brilliant remix artist than a completely original composer.
That's a helpful way to put it. Remixing versus inventing from scratch.
Now, humans are also really good at context, aren't we? Understanding irony or a cultural reference.
Yes, exactly. Contextual awareness. We swim in this incredibly rich soup of culture, history, social cues, and it all feeds into our creative work. A stand-up comic, for example, relies heavily on shared cultural understanding for their jokes to land.
It's like an inside joke the whole culture is in on. Sort of, yeah. And while you can train AI on vast amounts of contextual information, the sources suggest its grasp often stays, a bit on the surface.
Yeah, so.
It might learn to associate certain words with, say, a historical period, but it doesn't have that deep, lived-in feel for the nuances, the implications, the way a human historian or novelist writing about that period would.
Okay, so it can use the buzzwords, but maybe it doesn't get the full weight behind them. What about those lightning bolt moments, sudden inspiration?
Spontaneity.
Yeah.
And intuition, another fascinating area. Human creativity is often messy, nonlinear. Ideas pop up unexpectedly, right?
Yeah.
In the shower, boom, solution to a problem.
Happens all the time. Or seems to.
Right. It's that intuitive leap. AI, because it works on algorithms, processing data step by step, is generally less prone to those totally unpredictable flashes of insight.
More methodical.
Yeah, you could say that. It can incorporate randomness, sure, but it's usually a programmed randomness, not quite the same as that genuine, out-of-the-blue aha moment.
Less eureka, more calculation complete. And what about screwing up? That feels pretty human. Trying something, failing, learning.
A really critical point the material makes. Humans often learn and grow creatively through failure. You try a weird technique in painting, it looks awful.
Yeah.
But maybe you notice something interesting in the mess, a texture or effect you wouldn't have found otherwise. Happy accidents, you know?
Totally. Penicillin.
Exactly. AI systems, though, are generally optimized to avoid errors. Their learning is about getting better according to specific success rules.
So they don't really play in the same way.
It potentially limits that kind of messy exploration, yeah. The kind where you stumble onto something brilliant because you went off piste and made a mistake.
Okay, wow. So we sketched out quite a few pretty big differences for now. Intent, emotion, real originality, context, spontaneity, even learning from failure. But then the sources hit us with this huge hypothetical.
Yeah.
What if AI gets so good it can perfectly replicate all aspects of human creativity so you just couldn't tell a difference? That sounds unsettling.
It's definitely mind-bending. And the material rightly says, if that happened, we'd have to seriously rethink our definitions.
Yeah.
What is creativity then?
Right. If an AI poem moves you to tears, just like a human one, what's the actual difference anymore?
This is a massive philosophical question. But the sources do suggest some, well, speculative ways we might still try to find a distinction, even then.
Okay, let's speculate. What's the first idea?
Well, one angle is the source of it all. Even if the output is identical, where did it come from? Is there any kind of genuine AI consciousness or subjective experience driving it?
The million-dollar question. AI sentience.
Exactly. Is it feeling something, intending something? Or is it just an unbelievably sophisticated mimic? The origin story biological brain with lived experiences versus silicon and algorithms might still feel like a difference, even if proving it is incredibly difficult.
Like wondering if a character in a hyper-realistic simulation actually feels pain. Okay, what else? Could unpredictability still be a clue?
Possibly. The sources ponder this. Even if AI gets amazing at generating novel-seeming stuff, could we still spot creativity that goes utterly beyond its programming and data? Those truly weird, unexpected human ideas that seem to come from nowhere.
Well, where did that come from? Moments.
Yeah. Can AI genuinely surprise itself, or is it always fundamentally tied back to the patterns it learned? That's a key debate. And then there's the why.
The explanation.
Right. Could an AI articulate the reasons behind its creative choices? Why this color? Why that chord progression with genuine felt understanding and insight?
Not just spitting back some learned analysis of art theory.
Exactly. Could it convey that subjective, personal meaning that often motivates human artists? Or would the explanation always sound, well, a bit hollow, a bit programmed?
These are such tricky lines to draw. What about the basic physical difference? Brains versus chips. Does that always matter?
The sources bring this up too. Fundamentally, one is biology, the other is artificial. But the question becomes, if the output, the painting, the song, the story is indistinguishable, does the difference in the substrate, the physical basis, actually hold practical significance when we judge the work itself? If an AI symphony makes you weep, does it matter that it came from transistors, not neurons?
That's a tough one. If the experience is the same, does the origin matter as much? And finally, this idea of a Turing test for creativity, that sounds cool.
It's a neat concept. Imagine showing people creative works, some by humans, some by AI, maybe with explanations from the creator. Could people consistently tell which was which? If AI gets to the point where it consistently passes that kind of test, fooling experts and audiences alike, the sources suggest the distinction might just fade away in practice.
So if an AI writes a joke that makes you genuinely laugh and can explain the timing and setup convincingly, are we just splitting hairs saying it's not real creativity?
That's kind of the ultimate challenge, isn't it? The material strongly suggests that reaching that point of perfect mimicry would force us to fundamentally reassess what creativity is, maybe even what consciousness means. The old lines might just dissolve.
Wow, okay. Deep breaths. So let's try and pull this together. Right now, today, seems like there are some pretty identifiable differences. Intent, emotion, true originality, context, spontaneity, learning from mistakes. These feel like human territory mostly.
That's a fair summary of the current view presented in the sources, yeah.
But this future scenario, this perfect replication, it really makes you question everything.
It absolutely does. And it highlights that while AI is an amazing tool, capable of incredible things already, there seem to be these fundamental process differences right now. That genuine why, the deep feeling, the completely unexpected leap.
Right. So AI can generate a technically brilliant symphony, maybe, but it's not drawing on a lifetime of love and loss to do it. Not yet, anyway. Not in the way we understand it.
That seems to be the crux of it, based on our current understanding.
This has been, yeah, definitely a deep dive. Lots to chew on.
For sure. And it just makes you think about how these definitions might shift as the tech keeps barreling forward.
Totally. So maybe a final thought to leave folks with. As AI gets better and better, maybe even indistinguishable in its output sometimes, how much value do we, or will we, place on knowing the source? Does knowing a beautiful piece of music came from a machine change how we feel about it compared to knowing it came from a human heart?
That's the lingering question, isn't it? What does that mean for art, for meaning, for us?
Definitely something to keep thinking about. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.